So look, I understand that there's not any news about Julian Alvarez potentially going to FC Barcelona, right? The only thing that we have been hearing is that Julian Alvarez is going to be continuing at Manchester City and nothing more. Like for example, according to Fabrizio Romano, he has stated that there is no chance at all for Julian to leave Manchester City on loan in the summer. Links to Bayern on a loan move are described as a wide of the mark. Sources feel Alvarez is set to stay at City in any case, but for sure, he is not going to be leaving on loan. And that is it, right? So you guys may be wondering, why are we talking about Julian Alvarez today? And especially in a Barcelona channel, like what business does Barcelona have in regards to maybe signing Julian Alvarez? Well, here's the thing. I just feel like eventually Julian will become a Barcelona player, which is the main reason why I'm going to be making this video. Now, you may say, Kevin, you're being biased right now. You're only saying that because you're a Barcelona fan. And that is why. If anything, he has a bigger chance of going to a team like Bayern Munich, etc., etc. And I understand that. I understand where you're coming from. But here's the thing. The more I see Julian improving as a player at Man City, and the more I continue to see, and the more many people continue to see him being the substitute of Erling Haaland, the more I see Julian getting closer to frustration. Because it happens to many players. It happens to all players, as a matter of fact. It can be like a player that's doing very well gets subbed out very early, or he does very well and he always gets subbed in. The moment a player does well, but yet his minutes are always reduced, and he usually never plays a full 90-minute match, that player ends up getting very frustrated. And I do see that coming from Julian in a couple of years, or maybe even in a couple of months. And of course, we're not going to be seeing his frustration now because he just joined Manchester City, but I do think that in the long run, he will grow tired of it. Now, I know that Julian also does play with Erling Haaland sometimes. Sometimes Julian acts as a second striker to Erling Haaland, and you know, I do see them sometimes playing together and being in the same starting 11. But most of the time, like 65 to 70% of the time, Julian is the substitute. He is usually on the bench. But deep down, I know that Julian feels that he can do so much more. He's probably thinking, hey, look, I play like 60% of the time through a season with Man City, and look at how many goals I have. I wonder what would happen if I played 100% of the time and how many goals I could make. All of these thoughts, right? It comes down to one word: curiosity. And so because Julian has showed that he is so decisive, I think that the best club that would suit him would be Barcelona, and Barcelona need a player like Julian. If we look at his stats, which are going to be very impressive, by the way, Julian in the World Cup had a total of 5 starts. He scored a total of 4 goals. Julian in the Champions League with Man City this season, he has had 4 starts, 3 goals, and 2 assists. So this is the definition of a decisive player, and Julian is only going to want to extend that even more, the more chances he does get. So he's a real big game player. I would even say, right, that Julian Alvarez is better than Lewandowski, but when it comes to being decisive in big moments, Lewandowski could score your goals against Mallorca, against Betis, against Elche, against Valencia. We have seen that with Lewandowski, but we haven't seen Lewandowski score those big time goals in big moments for Barcelona. But Julian, he has proven that he can do that. If Barcelona's ever in situations where they have to face Bayern in the Champions League or Real Madrid or whoever, right, Julian is your player, and Barcelona need that type of player. So in my opinion, only speaking about as a Barcelona fan, because I know that I may sound a little biased, but in my opinion, I think that for Barcelona, it would be ideal to have Julian join this club in the summer, whether it's going to be a loan or a buy. And most likely it could be a buy. Like if someone wants Julian, they're going to have to pay the full price for it. But here's where it gets very interesting. If you look at the transfer market website and you look at how much Julian is worth, because he just renewed with Man City about 2 or 3 months ago, his transfer fee is around 40 to 50 million euros. And let's just say worst case scenario, 55 million euros, right? So let's just talk about the worst case. You may say, no, this is too much for Barcelona. Barcelona will never pay 40 to 55 million euros for a youngster like him, and especially a player coming from Manchester City. Well, look, you know who else cost 40 to 55 million euros? Vitor Roque. I don't know if you guys have been following the news, but the club that he does play for are asking for around 45 million euros plus variables, which could reach around 50 million euros, the same price tag of Julian Alvarez. And I'm over here thinking like, okay, if Barcelona are going to be stretched this much and pay this much for a striker that plays in South America, why don't they just bring those funds and get Julian Alvarez? Because they're costing almost the exact same price. Now, you may also say, no, Kevin, you're still wrong because Julian asked for so much more money compared to Vitor. He has a high salary. But it says on numerous football websites that Julian Alvarez only gets 2 million euros per year. At Barcelona, he would be considered as one of the lowest paid players. We can even say we'll bring Julian in for like 3 million euros a year. That's still very low. So Julian does not even earn a lot. And I do believe that a transfer like this is very much possible for Joan Laporta and Mateu Lemán to complete. Now, I'm not trying to downplay Vitor. I think that Vitor is still a great player, but the perfect transfer for Barcelona, if they want to strengthen the number 9 role, would be to bring Julian Alvarez. It's a great opportunity. Keep in mind that about a year and a half ago, Barcelona and Man City were fighting for Julian. Now, we saw Julian choose City because of two reasons. It was because the number 9 position at City was open at that time, and also the sporting project at that time, City were better. But the reason why I'm saying at that time is because Erling Haaland was not in the picture yet. Erling Haaland was signed 9 months ago. Julian Alvarez was signed about a year and a half ago. Now I'm wondering what Julian is thinking about this whole situation, whether he's happy at City or not, or he will eventually grow tired from it. So I'm a big fan of all of this happening. I would love for Barcelona to come out with the idea of saying, we should go for Julian. Let's see what happens. What if he could say yes? Because the moment Julian says, yes, I'm interested in going to Barcelona, there's an open spot for me. And yes, I know that Lewandowski is there, but he's much older. Erling Haaland, in this case, is much younger and he'll be here for many years. But I need to go somewhere and join a big project where I do fit in and I can get a lot of minutes. And so Julian is going to be a big time player. Like, I'm liking what he's doing so far. There's a stat that has surfaced and it says this: Julian Alvarez is 2 games away from becoming the first player in English football history to win the World Cup and the treble in the same season. He has the World Cup, he has the Premier League. The only 2 trophies he is missing is the FA Cup and the Champions League. And let me tell you, if Julian wins these 4 trophies this season, that's only going to extend how he feels about himself. He's gonna want to see more minutes. Now, I'm not saying that this player is some type of El Phenomenal type of player. Like, I'm not saying that he's going to be like that. I mean, he could be, but I'm not trying to glorify Julian like if he's going to be a number 9 of the best number 9 of this generation and even be better than Erling Haaland. But Barcelona and us fans appreciate what Julian brings to football, right? Him as a 9 or him as a second striker brings tremendous defensive work ethic, tremendous pressing. He's very comfortable playing in deep areas when he needs to. We've seen sometimes Pep Guardiola convert Julian as a number 8, which is crazy, and he performs very well. And most importantly, he has an eye for goal. So let's assume, right, he does move in the summer and he goes to Barcelona. Like, we see that Barcelona give the green light towards going for Julian. Julian says, I'm interested, I would like to go to Barcelona. And Man City do also give the green light and they say, okay, that's fine, but we have to negotiate and we have to negotiate well, because remember, Pep Guardiola does not like to keep players that are very unhappy or just unsettled in their club. So let's assume that does happen. I would like to see a front 3 of Julian on the left wing, Lewandowski as the striker, and Messi on the right wing. Keep in mind that if Messi comes to Barcelona, that only strengthens the reason why Julian would move to Barcelona. He'll see his teammate. His best teammate right now is Messi. We have seen that with Argentina in the World Cup. So imagine a front 3 like that. Julian can definitely play as a left winger. Or we could see another thing. We could see Julian on the left wing, Lewandowski as a striker, and Dembele on the right wing, right? Now we have 2 different front 3s. A third option could be for Dembele to play on the left, Julian as the number 9, and Messi on the right. And then you have Julian and Messi seeing each other much more on the field. Now you may ask, but what about Ansu and Ferran and Rafinha? Well, I think that 1 out of those 3 will stay. I think that 2 will leave out of those 3. And I think that it is going to be Ansu Fati and Ferran Torres. And I would not mind to see Ansu and Ferran leave, because if we keep Rafinha and we sign players like Julian, Lewandowski, and Messi, and we still have Lewandowski, Messi, and Dembele, we can just promote 2 other attackers, which could be Abde and Lamine Yamal. So that's basically how I would handle it. I really wish that I, in some way, could have some sort of say on how this Barcelona club could be run, but that is just how I would go for it. I know it seems very like fantasy-like or like something that you would do in FIFA, but I just feel like this is very doable. I don't understand why Barcelona cannot see an opportunity like this. Now, if Julian did cost like 90 to 150 million euros, then we would be having a much different conversation. I probably would not even make this video. But let me make one thing very clear. Right now, the main target from Barcelona is to sign Vitor. I think that the best option could be Julian, but right now, like I've said, I don't want to lie to anybody here on this channel. The main target is Vitor, and he's going to continue to be the target for Barcelona. Now, you know what will be very great to see? For Barcelona to sign Vitor this summer, but they loan him back to the team that he does play right now. Very similar to how City treated Julian Alvarez when they signed him when he was at River Plate. City signed Julian and they said, hey, look, we signed you, but we're going to loan you, since you're our player now, to River Plate for about a couple of months, and then we'll bring you back. So Barcelona can do the exact same thing with Vitor, and then Barcelona can pay for Vitor in the summer of 2024 while we bring Julian Alvarez in this summer. And then by that time, in the summer of 2024, Lewandowski might eventually leave, or could be leaving, because he'll be 36 years old. He'll have 2 years left in his contract. It'll be the perfect time to sell. And then by that time, in the summer of 2024, we'll have Vitor, Julian, Dembele, Lamine Yamal, Ansu Fati, and Lionel Messi. We have 2 experienced players, Messi and Dembele, and then we have the youth, right? The next generation, Ansu, Lamine Yamal, Julian Alvarez, and Vitor. Now, I know that I did say that Ansu could be leaving, but it's just for the sake of the example. It could be Rafinha, Messi, Dembele, and then our youngsters being Lamine Yamal, Julian Alvarez, and Vitor. So let me know what you guys think about this transfer of Julian in the comment sections down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.